All right, topic number 3 for off-season structure is mindset, which is this is like what I love is really just diving into mindset. And I wanted to kind of tie this in with having a plan in place. There's something that David Goggins said that like really hit me in the face, and he said that if you hit the snooze button on your alarm, you've already messed up your plan for the day, because you basically committed the night before to starting something, and then you talked yourself out of that plan the following morning. So for me, I have a lot going on within my day. I feel like right now my day has to be so regimented, and this is something I wanted to tie into the last video as well. Like, I think bodybuilding is such a small microcosm of basically a greater picture of life. And for people that execute bodybuilding right, that can be basically translated into executing life in some ways right. But the common denominator in any successful person is they have structure to their day. They have a plan to their day. For example, like Mark Wahlberg, I think he's lived the same exact timing of his day the past 10 years on a day-to-day basis. That's not by mistake. So when it comes to the mindset of athletes, and I can tell this from the first time somebody emails me, the structure of their email, what the questions that they're asking. Is it, hey bro, what's your prices? Or, hey Matt, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm looking to accomplish. Like, from the get-go, and it's not like I'm doing this on purpose, but I'm immediately more attracted to helping that person simply because of how they set the structure of what they want to achieve, and I can tell that their mindset is locked into that. And then also on the other end of the spectrum, you learn a lot about people's mindsets when things don't go right, and I think honestly that really tells the tale of where somebody's at mentally. So when it comes to goal setting, like if you don't accomplish that goal, how do you react to that? When it comes to your daily structure, if your daily structure is thrown off course due to a life event, due to a family member, do you retaliate against that person, or do you find what you could have done better yourself? Like one of the things that I combat on a weekly basis is somebody telling me that they couldn't get their cardio in due to X, Y, and Z, and I usually just ask them, well, could you have woken up earlier? And the answer almost all the time is yes, but yet they're not allowing themselves mentally to go to that place, when that to me is just such a simple solution. If you want to get something done, if you want to prioritize something, nothing gets in the way of that. But yet, I think on a daily basis, we still allow life's events to really mess that up. So where are you at mentally? This, to me, the mindset is going to dictate the goals and the plan. So that's why these are all just as equally important, and they're just subcategories of each other.
Let me ask you something real quick. Do you think that can be learned, or do you think it's innate in people? Do you think it can be...
I do think it can be taught.
Yeah.
But I also think that just human nature is for us to revert back to what we know at some point or another. My mom tells stories about me, and I'm not trying to talk about myself, but
it's fine.
I've always had this structure. I was running drills by myself at the age of 6,
Yeah.
because that's what I wanted to do. And I think to some level, it's like we're born, you're born with that.
I agree. I'll talk about myself.
Yeah.
Sophomore year, because I started training when I was 12. Sophomore year, I broke my ulna in a football game. And I didn't come out of the game. I finished the game, and I got a cast on my arm. And I still went to the gym and lifted. I just found exercises that I could do, and I did those exercises. And I never missed one game. But a lot of people, it didn't even cross my mind to shut it down.
Yeah.
Where most people just would be like, oh, my season's over.
Yeah. And honestly, I think, just being really transparent with you guys, this is the first time in my life that I've tried to basically go to a normal human mentality. With my injury, I was so determined to have that Kobe Bryant type response.
Yeah.
And I tried so hard to accomplish that, and for some reason it just wasn't in the cards for me. So when I basically was told I needed surgery again, I did a self-evaluation, and the only thing that I've not done, I've done everything, the only thing that I've not done is rested. So to me, I just had to tell myself, okay, Matt, you just have to be a normal human. Just let the competitive side go, channel that more into your coaching, and then see what happens. Because when I'm going through what caused this injury, I have to look back on myself and think that I potentially could have done something to cause the second surgery. So,
yeah.
Yeah, for me and my mindset, if I'm not being productive all the time, I feel like a failure. And if I don't have, a list of tasks to do in one day, and I don't do all those tasks, even if I do, 6 out of the 10 things, which the 10 things might be unrealistic, but I still do it knowing it's unrealistic because I want to.
Do you have them written down?
Mm-hmm. I
Do
write
you cross them off?
every morning. Yep.
And if you don't have everything crossed off, it bothers you?
It does bother me.
Yeah.
So I write them down every morning. I revisit them at night. But I'm someone where I have a very hard time letting myself relax and take time for myself. And I feel like if I have that time to sit around and relax, I could be doing something in that moment. So why am I not being productive? I could be missing out on that gap to where that better place is, that better physique, that better, grade in school, catching up on work, like whatever it is, I could be doing more, I feel like. But having that time to rest is important, and having that time to kind of slow down, rewind, and just reevaluate and know, you're still accomplishing tasks. You're still getting closer to the goal. You don't have to do everything all at one time. You just have to have that balance between knowing in your mind what is accomplishable, what is too much, and then if you're spreading yourself too thin, I think is huge. But being able in your head to accept, I know I'm a hard worker, I know I'm dedicated, but I also know that to continue going forward and avoid feeling burnt out or feeling like
you
I've
have to
fried
shut it off
myself.
sometimes.
Yeah, you have to respect that time and that space in your mind to be able to kind of slow down. And
you can just relate it. You can relate it to training. You know that you can't train 6 hours a day every day.
Yeah, exactly.
If that were the case, then that's what we do. It's not about doing things the hardest all the time. Sometimes it's about doing things the smartest.
And that ties everything together with bodybuilders overall. Probably the worst thing for us, like we all suck at real self-reflection. We're terrible at it. We turn, because our body is our goal, our body becomes not us anymore. It's not a part of us, it's a part of a project that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's an objective goal that we're looking to make things happen to, not necessarily with, because it's us. So with that, and then all the other objectives that we're going about during the day, it's all checkboxes. It's really easy to turn everything we do into checkboxes and get lost in the fact that you need to get the list done. But if we don't take any time, and we usually don't allow ourselves the time to really sit and reflect on where we're really at, think about where we're mentally at, where we're physically at, and then just keep on moving forward with trying to sit down and allow yourself the time, not to just relax and take yourself away from doing the goal setting and actually the goal completion, but to sit down and figure out what is the non-negotiables. What is the thing that's important to you? Is what you're doing right now actually important to you, or is it something you've told yourself a story is important to you? Because that's going to determine how far you go anyway, and whether or not you're happy with having done it. So we get way too caught up in the fact that we're chasing down the Joneses. We always are. And sometimes the Joneses is just the vision that we have for ourselves in the future. And that's okay, that's part of it. But if we don't know whether or not we're actually happy with doing that, then your mindset is just going to be a facade. It's a veil that you put over everything so that you can show up to do the thing when you need to do it. But then what do you go home to? What do you go home to when you're silent with yourself? You have no other influences. You don't have Instagram up. You don't have YouTube up. You're not listening to somebody talking in your ear on a podcast telling you what you should be thinking. What do you think when you're by yourself? Do you think when you're by yourself? Are you incapable of doing so? It's a problem. And that's what happens when we have off-season, in-season, no matter where we are. If you don't take the time to know where you are and where you need to be, and whether or not what you're doing is contributing to your mental health and where your mindset needs to be to move forward, you're going to crash and burn at some point. You don't know when, but when it happens, it's going to be catastrophic, and you're going to have no idea what happened because you let the fire start and it was going with you turning your blind eye to it for as long as it could until it started burning you.
Yeah, every time you avoid that time to self-reflect, you're pushing that aside. You're pushing it aside every single time that you avoid sitting down with yourself and your thoughts and where you are right now and the cards you're dealt right now in this moment. It gets that much harder to start playing with those cards that you're currently dealt.
I think you can sum it up by, I think we can all agree to be great at something, you have to be obsessed, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, everybody agree? You just have to know, you have to have the ability to shut it off sometimes, I think is what we're all getting at.
Yeah, I think a great example of this is like, if the end goal is to win, not satisfying, just momentary things that satisfy you within the moment. You know, and an example of that for me, I remember this period of time in 2018 where I think I missed on like 3 major shows in a row with athletes. And at the time, Jordan, who knows me so well, she came to me after the 3rd miss and she said, Matt, you haven't taken a day off now in over 3 months. You know, so like my objective was to win, but my obsession with winning was actually keeping me from winning. And knowing that, you know, basically I know that in order for me to be as fresh as I can be for my athletes, I have to take a day off. And that doesn't mean that I'm mentally weak. That actually means that I'm mentally preparing to be better.
And also you got your own way.
Yeah, and knowing the difference between the two can make all the difference. Like I absolutely hate the team no days off hashtag.
I was just gonna
because,
say
like,
that. I do. I
you know,
hate it.
like part of success for some people is actually most people is having a day off, and then just relating it strictly back to to bodybuilding. I made my best bodybuilding progress when I started taking more days off, up to 3 days off a week.
Yep.
You know, so mindset doesn't just mean being like the most, you know, hardcore badass you can be. It's finding a system for the long-term objectives and how you get there.